everybody wants you to show up. Will you testify before Congress?
So the short answer is I'm happy to if it's the right thing to do. And our objective is always to provide Congress with this extremely important job to have the most information that they can.
Mark Zuckerberg saying he'd be willing to testify before Congress if it is determined that he is the right person to answer the questions. Meanwhile, some company officials from Facebook will meet with staffers from the House Judiciary Committee today. A member from that committee, Texas Congressman John Ratcliffe, with me now. And, sir, thanks for coming back here on America's Newsroom. You're not going to be in that meeting, but what questions do you have at the moment?
Well, I think the meeting, Bill, is setting up the parameters for Mr. Zuckerberg and other representatives from Facebook to come to Capitol Hill to testify about this issue. Hopefully, and I do think that he should come and testify. What I do hope, though, is that we focus on the larger picture here about privacy and trust in the digital age. I think this is really more of a privacy issue than it is a political issue at this point in time. But we need to find out what Facebook was doing to enforce its privacy policies on behalf of its 2.2 billion users worldwide.
I think that's fair. So they're basically setting the parameters during this meeting today, if the or when rather the hearing happens. That's what I heard you say.
That is what I said, Bill. I think, hopefully it is Mr. Zuckerberg. He is the representative, I think, best able to speak for Facebook and to its 2.2 billion users that have real concerns about their sensitive personal information that they have entrusted to companies like Facebook and other social media platforms.
When you think about a company that's got 2 billion followers, right? Democrats are steaming mad about this. I mean, they're hacked off. It appears more so than Republicans are. I don't know why that is. Perhaps the left thought that big tech was in their corner for a long time. Perhaps, the Russia collusion story is falling apart and you're still looking for a reason to explain the election loss of 2016. How much consideration have you given that to this story?
Well, I think it's fair to consider it, but I do think that goes to the issue of making this political rather than a privacy issue. I think the reason for that, Bill, is that Democrats wonder whether or not the Cambridge Analytica was part of some plan to help the Trump campaign. Thus far, it appears that whether the Trump campaign even accessed that information is in question, and even if it did, its impact was likely de minimis. But I think those are fair questions to ask, but I hope that's not lost in the larger picture about privacy and trust in the digital age and social media platforms that control so much information about Americans, and having that discussion in public before the American people with people like Mark Zuckerberg, I think is really important.
Sounds like a rat hole. I mean, I don't know how deep it runs. Do you have any idea?
I think that that's why you have hearings and bring folks like Mark Zuckerberg in to testify. I think there's so much that we don't know about companies like Facebook that we entrust our personal information to, whether or not they're really trying to enforce their own privacy policies, how privacy tools are being utilized, and I think those are things that, more importantly, people are going to be focusing on down the road.
All right. Do you have anything to say on what's going to come out on the Russia matter today? Do you have any information we need to know now?
I don't know of any significant developments, although, as you know, Bill, this is a very fluid situation that changes rapidly. I know that there are a lot of calls right now by folks to end the special counsel investigation by Robert Mueller. I'm not in that camp. What I would like to see, though, is Bob Mueller's boss rein in the investigation. I think part of the problem here is that the order under which Bob Mueller is operating, I think appropriately allowed him to look into links and coordination between the Trump campaign and the Russian government. I think that was appropriate. But there's another phrase in there that allows him to look at any matters which arise from the investigation. And that's really a blank check for a prosecutor to, instead of investigating and prosecuting crime, to investigate and prosecute people, folks like Rick Gates and Paul Manafort, for activities that happened a decade before they even knew Donald Trump.
Sounds like another rat hole. Sir, thank you for your time. You come back, okay?
You bet. Thanks,
John
Bill.
Ratcliffe, you bet. From